Hello everyone, this is Brother Steven and I'm here once again for another video. But for today, it's very important and it's very interesting because in the spirit of All Saints Day and All Souls Day, I am here to give you a little bit of the things that share with you a little bit of the things that I learned in our class in theology, which is very interesting. Currently, I'm studying Old Testament literature, which is the prophetic books. Prophetic literature too. So we're studying all of the prophets, like in a general way, not really in depth yet, but very, very interesting. There are very amazing details about the prophets. We talked about Amos or Amos, Hosea, Isaiah, Micah, who else? Ezekiel, Elisha, whatever. All of those things, all of those people in the prophets. So, but for today, I am going to share with you guys the question, why do Catholics pray for the dead, and why do they ask intercession or pray with the saints or to saints for intercession? Okay, so if you are Catholic, so you are the right audience that I'm addressing, because I just really wanted to help other Catholics nga wala siguro nakahibaw, hindi nyo siguro alam to, or maybe you have confusion about this. I suggest first that you also do your own research after this. The answers are actually there. And of course, for Catholics, if you are gonna read articles or books for the answers, look for the answers there. You need to also read Catholic books, okay? Because there are always other books that talk about this, which are really not that good of a source for learning, because they're gonna be against this teaching, this doctrine of the church or dogma. So yeah, first thing, the only place, answer ko na, the only place where we can find the teaching or the basis for why Catholics pray for the dead is in 2 Maccabees chapter 12 verses 42 to 46. Actually, it goes back to even 38. Okay, so research that. 2 Maccabees chapter 12 verses 38 to 46, and you need to have a Catholic Bible for you to see the 1st and 2nd Maccabees and the 7, and which is included in the 7 Deuterocanonical books. Why? Because the Protestant Bibles don't have that. So if you are Catholic, it is best that you get a Bible which is Catholic edition. Okay, so before we go there, so why I would like to answer why the other Bibles don't have the 7 Deuterocanonical books. It's because Martin Luther, or there was a point in history around like late 1800s wherein those books were taken out, and a lot of people think, or they thought, that the Council of Trent was the only time where the 7 apocrypha or Deuterocanonical books were added. Actually, no. Even in the 3rd century or 7th century, the Council of Hippo, Council of Carthage, and all the other councils or gatherings for the canon, or finding out really, or praying really what is the list for the books for the Bible, the gathering that they had. They even already included the 7 Deuterocanonical books. So the Council of Trent was in the year 1546. So if you think that it was only added during the 1546 Council of Trent, then why did the German translation of Martin Luther, according to my research, why did it include the 7 apocrypha books, which was in 1534? So even Martin Luther before already had the list of the 7 Deuterocanonicals, which included the 2nd Maccabees. So it's just a little bit of history. So let's read now. Let's read now what 2nd Maccabees chapter 12 verses 38 to 45 says. Okay, Then Judas, that is Judas Maccabeus, the protagonist of the story, assembled his army and went to the city of Adullam. As the 7th day was coming on, they purified themselves according to the custom, and they kept the Sabbath there. Meaning, 7th day is the Sabbath for them. But for them, Sabbath was a Saturday, yes? So, that is why they had to purify themselves. Let's go to verse 39. On the next day, as by that time it had become necessary, Judas and his men went to take up the bodies of the fallen and to bring them back to lie with their kinsmen in the sepulchres of their fathers. So they took the dead. Then, under the tunic of every one of the dead, they found sacred tokens of the idols of Jamnia, which the law forbids the Jews to wear. And it became clear to all that this was why these men had fallen. So they all blessed, 41, so they all blessed the ways of the Lord, verse 41, the righteous judge who reveals the things that are hidden. 42, and they turned to prayer. Here it is. And they turned to prayer, beseeching that the sin which had been committed might be wholly blotted out. So they prayed, the Lord, hopefully their sin will be erased. That's how they prayed. Continue in verse 42. And the noble Judas exhorted the people to keep themselves free from sin, for they had seen with their own eyes what had happened because of the sin of those who had fallen. Verse 43. He also took up a collection, man by man, to the amount of 2,000 drachmas of silver, and sent it to Jerusalem to provide for a sin offering. Sin offering. Took collection and then gave it to the temple, to Jerusalem for a sin offering, as an expiation, right? In doing this, continue, in doing this, he acted very well and honorably, taking account of the resurrection. So all of these things, even the second Maccabees, all these things that they're doing, this is actually based really on our belief and on the truth of the resurrection. So Maccabeus and Judas Maccabeus and all his men were praying for the dead, taking care of the dead, and giving a collection, sin offering. All of this is because of the belief of the resurrection. So that is why they are doing this. Verse 44. For if he were not expecting that those who had fallen would rise again, so if there's no resurrection, it would have been superfluous and foolish to pray for the dead. Self-explanatory. Verse 45, now the last verse. But if he was looking to the splendid reward that is laid up for those who fall asleep in godliness, it was a holy and pious thought, the one that he did. Therefore, he made atonement for the dead, that they might be delivered from their sin. Amazing. Okay, so this is related to the resurrection and purgatory, the doctrine, the belief of purgatory in the Catholic Church. And this is the only basis. This is the second Maccabees chapter 12, 42 to 45, and you go back to 38 to get the gist of why they did that. And also there are also other references to the resurrection, which is in Ezekiel about the dry bones. Also, sorry, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, we also read that if Christ did not resurrect, vain is our preaching. What use is all of this, that we're doing if wala pa ni resurrect si Lord? So it's all about the resurrection. See? And so there. So we remember that in the 38th verse 38, it was all about the Sabbath. So this is very interesting. Di ba you remember that Sabbath is Saturday for them. But now for Christian, to make it Christianized, di ba Sabbath, we celebrate Sabbath day on the Easter, on Sundays, right? Because of Easter Sunday, Jesus resurrected on a Sunday. I'm talking fast, I'm just really excited. So Jesus resurrected on a Sunday, Easter Sunday, hence we take our rest for the whole week on a Sunday. And then, di ba, they rested on a Sunday, and then after the Sabbath, after that, they took care of the bodies. Di ba in Catholic tradition, when do we go to the cemeteries to pray for the dead? On a Monday, right? Because, again, for Christians, we rest on a Sunday, the Sabbath, and then we take care of the dead on the next day, which is a Monday, right? So that's it. Yeah. And what else do I need to tell you guys? Again, what he did was holy and pious. Did it out of love. It was an act of love and expiation for those who had fallen or those who have died with you know, their sinfulness, their impurities, no? So what another question, what if nalangit na? What if the person we are praying for is already nalangit or is already taken by parang embraced by God or welcomed by God in heaven? And it is our belief that when we pray for the dead and they need our prayers for expiation, for offering for their sins, and for the temporal punishment in purgatory. So we also believe as Catholics, and I think all Christians believe this, that no prayer is ever wasted. No prayer is wasted. So if you are praying for somebody who has died, and you know, in the greater scheme of things, you did not know, but maybe he already has done serving in purgatory, or he really is in heaven now. So praying for the dead can be applied. The prayers that you prayed for, that you used for people who already went to heaven and you didn't know, it will be applied. Number one, it goes back to us, because that's how mercy flows, right? What we give, we also receive. So the generosity, the love we showed for praying for the dead, the mercy we show them, the holy thing we did for them because we prayed for them, if it cannot be applied to them anymore because they're already in heaven, murag wala na igamit, diba, murag okay na ba naman? So first it goes back to us. That's how the universe works, right? God's universe works, and praying is already a merit in itself. And yun, I got lost there. So it goes back to us, and then praying is already a merit for us. And I really believe personally, no prayer is wasted, because nothing is wasted in the universe of God, right? So for example, I know I'm not God, okay, but humanly speaking, if somebody is praying for this person and then wala na, so it doesn't just go to nothing, I just apply it to other people who may still be needing prayers. But that's just my conjecture now. Why? Next question. Why are there no surnames when we pray for the dead? If you remember, if magpamisa tayo sa mga patay, di ba parang ano lang, pangalan lang, and iba gusto talaga may surname. But there's actually a reason why the church suggests or would like to say that there should be no surnames. Kasi originally there were no surnames in the world. Kaya lang they had to put the surnames kasi, for example, in a family there are the name Stephen, like my name. There are a lot of Stephens in one family, right? So they had to put a surname para they would know that this Stephen is the one we're talking about. So surnames are there only to distinguish which person that is. So that name can also be up. So when we pray for somebody and there's no surname, we pray for the kalag ni Pepito, kalag ni like that, whatever. The name can also be applied to the soul that has the same name that may be forgotten. So do you see that the Holy Mother Church is so motherly in her love for her children, and of course God, no, that the Holy Mother Church wants to of course by God's grace and with God's mercy wants to apply the names also to those who may be forgotten, because I tell you, the centuries ago there are still, we believe that there are still souls in purgatory that have been forgotten. Okay, there are threefold churches in the Catholic Church: the Church Militant, the ones who are still living on earth; Church Triumphant, the saints in heaven; and Church Suffering, those who are in purgatory. So there are souls in purgatory that are forgotten, which is kinda cool, because the moment you say, diba, when you say and all the forgotten ones, the moment you say all the forgotten ones, you already remember them. So do you see? So again, the point here, guys, I don't know, I don't want to be technical about it. I just share with you what I learned, no, and again, you need to have more research. But ano ko lang, diba, na parang at the bottom line of this praying for the dead, celebrating All Saints Day. I don't even want to talk about intercession of the saints because that's another thing to begin with. One thing comes to mind. It's all about mercy and love. Mercy/love, because there's just two things. Mercy and love, merciful love. I don't know, the doctrine or the teaching on praying for the dead really just resonates well with me, and I believe it resonates well with the mercy of God, because if we see that God is really merciful and He's amazing and everything, I think I really believe in that. I really believe that praying for the dead is good and it is real. Okay, so I hope now that we are celebrating November 1, I hope that you guys learn something. So if your Protestant friends or born-again friends or Christian friends ask you, why do you believe that, you can show them this video. But again, maybe other people say, it's not enough to explain. I'm not yet a theologian. I'm still studying theology. So you also study your faith, and I hope that that this tells you that you also need to study your faith, because there are already answers. And you go back to my suggestion, you also read early church fathers, because they already answered all of those stuff. And if people are asking, why do we do this, remember that they're not the first ones who are asking that. People already asked that before, and there had been answers. Okay, so just need to know and look for the answers. So I hope, guys, I didn't plan this to be a very long video, but this is just a raw video, and I'm just in the car because it's so noisy outside. But I hope that this helped you. It did help me. So again, to 2nd Maccabees chapter 12 verses 42 to 45. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful All Saints Day, and also tomorrow All Souls Day. Please pray for your dead. Pray for people who are already dead. By the way, people's Christians, Protestants for that matter, say that, you know, the Lord forbids us to communicate with the dead, to communicate with the dead. But actually, when you pray for the dead, you're not communicating with the dead. We are not doing that, because the context of the condemnation was that people in the past, in the history of Israel, were conjuring up spirits according to their own will, to manipulate the spiritual realm according to their own will. But when you pray for the dead, you are not manipulating the dead. You're not manipulating spirits. You are just praying for the spirits, for the souls, out of love, because you love your loved ones who already passed, to the next life. So you're just praying for them. You're not trying to conjure up spirits to do your bidding. No, that is wrong. Of course, the Catholic Church condemns that as well. So, and if they still say that, remember that in Deuteronomy, it says there that Moses died and Elijah was taken up to heaven through a fiery chariot. But in Mount Tabor, Jesus was seen by Peter, James, and John to have spoken with Moses and Elijah, who were dead already. So, what does that tell us about Jesus? Are they going to say that Jesus also spoke with the dead, communicated with the dead? So, are you getting where, do you know where I'm getting at? So parang, so Jesus also committed a crime, because he spoke with Elijah and Moses, who are clearly dead in the minds of the Jews. So there. Thank you so much, guys. Again, this is a long video. I hope that you forgive me. And again, I hope that you live out your Catholic faith and study your faith, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.